Hello, welcome to BA 250, Chapter 8, Excel lesson. Excel lesson is ATC 8-10, Spreadsheet on Alternative Methods of Depreciation. It's on page 473 and continues on to page 474 where it finishes. And so this is an extensive spreadsheet, and I have it set up for you behind me, and rather than building this completely in front of you, I'm going to work through step by step my finished solution. Now when you open yours up, it's going to look just exactly like what you see on this screen, except that it won't have any numbers in it. It'll only have these words. It won't have a data table in it. It'll be empty except for the setup requirements. So I'll be showing you how to develop this step by step. And remember that if you watch me do something and you can't quite figure out what I did, all you have to do is go down on your screen, grab the little bar that's showing you how much you've seen and back it up, and you'll hear me say the same thing over again. So you can stop it and ask me to repeat something and cause me to repeat something anytime, and you'll get to hear it again. So as I look at the book here, same as you would be, ATC 810 says Short Company purchased a computer on January 1, 2013 for $5,000. An additional $100 was paid for delivery charges. The computer has an estimated life of 5 years or 10,000 hours. Salvage value is estimated at $300. During the 5 years, it would be used as followed: 2013 through 2017, 2,500 hours through 1,400 hours. It says prepare requirement A, prepare a 5-year depreciation schedule for the computer using the straight line depreciation method. Be sure to use formulas for all the computations. So you're either going to have cell formulas or cell references. You're not going to be typing in any numbers, including depreciation expense. Set up the following headings for your schedule. So you see it has year, and then it has beginning. What was the beginning cost? What was the beginning accumulated depreciation? What was the book value? And then it has the depreciation expense for that year. And then it has the ending information, the ending cost, the ending accumulated depreciation, and the ending book value. Now once you finish that entire year, the beginning cost, accumulated, and depreciation for that next year is exactly equal to the ending amounts for the last year. So these ending amounts represent what it was at 12/31 midnight, and these beginning amounts are what it was January 1, also at midnight in the morning. So one is midnight at night, one is midnight in the morning. So be sure that you recognize you're going to be calculating the same numbers, but that's a double check to make sure you're getting exactly the numbers from year to year. So requirement A asks for a 5-year depreciation schedule for straight line. The next B is a 5-year depreciation schedule using units of production. Then C is a 5-year schedule using double declining balance, and D is a 5-year schedule using marks. After the 2013 entry, subsequent dates automatically, enter subsequent dates automatically. Position the mouse in the lower right hand corner of the left hand side of 13. Use a thin crossbar. Click and drag for the 4 additional years. And I'll show you that way to do it, and another way that will really make sure you get the years the other method we'll use for any string that's continuous, whether it's years or dates or amounts or whatever it might be. Okay, so when we look here, we're going to first of all put in your name. So you can see right up here, I'm going to type Dr. Fultz, and you would type your own name. Then you'll notice that you have straight line, cost minus salvage divided by useful life typed in there for you. You have the year heading, you have the beginning and the ending, and then you have cost, accumulated depreciation, book value, depreciation expense, cost, accumulated depreciation, and book value at the end of the year. So the beginning is what will be reported on the books throughout the year. Depreciation is generally always done at year end. And then ending is what the new balances will be at the end of December 31st, and then we'll start the next year after that. So then the years are typed for you, 2013 through 2017. And what they were saying in the hint is that if you look at this and you click on this bar right here at the very bottom, I can't really move it around a lot, you'll see it starts moving, but you can drag those down and it'll fill in for you. Another thing you can do is you can grab the first, you can put in the first two, then it really knows that what you want is that list of years, and you could just keep pulling that down. One of the things that's nice is when you pull it down, you'll see that it's telling you exactly what year you're doing in a little tiny box off to the right, so you can enter just exactly the number of years you need to. So that's how we put in years. The next thing you're going to have there is B, requirements, units of production, and I typed in here for you cost per unit. So you're going to get cost minus salvage divided by the total estimated units, and that's in there for you right now. And then you have these headings and you have these years. And then double declining balance, cost minus accumulated depreciation or book value times 2 the life stated as a percentage. 2 times the life stated as a percentage. And again, you have beginning and ending book values and the years. Then you have the Mark's recovery, cost minus a table factor. That's on page 429. So you want to right now write in there maybe 429, and then you'll know for sure that that's where you're going to look that up. And then again, the same headings. Now they did, I gave you all of this with the merging the cells and the years and the dates, so that you don't have to type in all of that. You do have to do these calculations. So this is much more an exercise in cell formulas and cell references than it is in setting up a spreadsheet. And I do hope you take time to look at how they set up the spreadsheet, what it looks like, especially while yours is blank, and say, okay, I see the logic of this. I have these 4 years I have to do A, B, C, and D, and so they've set that all up. Now, your first step after putting in your name is to come over, and I put mine in K. Yours doesn't have to be that far over if you don't want to, but I just typed data table colon, underlined it, and then did bold. So over here in home, I did the bold, I did the underline, and that's what's on this first line for the data table. I skipped a line and typed in cost because that was one of the conditions that they told us. The computer had a cost of $5,000 and $100 for delivery charges. So I typed in cost, and then over here I said this is equal to 5,000 plus 100. So you can perhaps see up here it's equal to, comma, 5,000 plus 100, and enter, and you get the 5,100. The salvage value, you type that in, and in the O column you put in 300. The useful life in years, and you put in 5. And the beginning accumulated depreciation is 0, because you haven't accumulated anything at the beginning. Now the estimated total estimated units, and that's stated in hours, is 10,000 hours. And again, you want to type the 2013, the 2014, highlight the two of them, grab this little black box, drag them down until you have 2017, and it'll put in all the years for you. Now you do have to put in the hours yourself. They come right out of this green box at the bottom of page 473. And you type 2,500 hours, 2,400 hours, 2,000 hours, 1,700 hours, and 1,400 hours. All of them right there in a row. You come over here to the box right beside it, and you've got to prove to make sure that this is 10,000 hours. Because if it were more or less, we would have to adjust the final year to make it 10,000 hours. Either it wouldn't be fully depreciated, and we're going to need to charge ourselves that expense, or we would leave too much book value or too little. So now it is exactly 10,000 hours when we prove that, so they equal one another. Remember that the book value can never go below this $300 in salvage value, because you're claiming that I'll be able to sell this for $300, so I'm not going to charge myself more depreciation expense than what it takes to get this down to $300. So this salvage value is going to equal the final book value until you actually sell the equipment. So until you sell this computer, you're going to depreciate it down to a book value of $300, but not below that. So now under cost, you have a blank. You want to click on cost, and you want to do equal. So I'll put in the equal. You want it to equal $5,100, and you want to do enter. Now you also want to come back up to that and highlight it up here and click it in F4, click it in F4, I touched 4 by mistake, F4, it'll make it a constant for you. It'll put those zeros around it. Now we've used the F4 function before, and you're going to use it a lot in this assignment, so get used to it, and you'll do F4 and enter, and it will be $5,100. So you know that the cost is not going to change throughout the life of this, so you can come in here, click and drag down the 5,100, and since you made it a constant with those with the F4 key, it'll never change, and it'll always be $5,100 in there for you. Now you'll have a sheet that has 5,100 coming down the B column, and now we're going to work across the row 10. So the accumulated depreciation is over here. The beginning accumulated depreciation is equal to, so we're going to do that. We're going to do equal to, we're going to click on this 0 over here in O, I can't quite see what that is, 06, sorry, and we're going to do an enter, and now that beginning accumulated depreciation is equal to this cell. This is why we set up data tables, so that we're just clicking on cells, C-E-L-L-S, cells, and we're not typing all these numbers in over and over again. Now then, the book value here is equal to, now I want it to be equal to B10, the original cost, minus the accumulated depreciation to get the book value. So you can probably see, I'm hoping up here in the formulas, you're going to see equal to B10 minus C10, and that's the first year's book value, and that's they bought this on January 1, so for all of 2013 until you write depreciation entries at the end of the year, it's going to be $5,100 book value. Now you have to calculate the depreciation expense. So come up here with me to D4, and in D4 you want to put in the cost, right over here, the cost minus the salvage. So you want a formula in here that says cost O3 minus salvage value, which is O4. So this formula will always be O3 minus O4. So cost minus salvage is $4,800. That's the maximum amount you're going to depreciate. The useful life right here is equal to O5, that cell, O5. So O5 right in there. I'm sorry, I was looking at something and now I want to do this math in E4 to get the depreciation per year. So since this is cost minus salvage divided by life, it is D4 divided by D5. So we have D4 divided by D5, and we get, it is $960, and that's per year. Every year, that's what the depreciation expense will be. So we've derived these amounts from this formula using the data table. Now, if you have any questions about doing that, stop right now, drag the, I don't even know what you call that. I just call it the play line. I don't know, but it's generally a little ball and a slide that's going across the bottom, and so the play slide, you just want to drag it back and listen to me talk about how to begin with this formula, put that formula in and do the math and see what the cost comes out. Now then, so depreciation expense is always going to be it's always going to be cost minus salvage divide by 5. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can make that equal to E4. And you can make it equal to E4, and that's just fine. And that will always get you the $960. When you look up here at mine, I've got it equal to O3 minus O4 divide by O5, which are these numbers right here. O3 minus O4 divide by O5. And then I highlighted the whole thing and I did an F4, and so I'll always have that formula as a constant. It won't change, and it'll be based on the data table. And I don't care which way you do it, if you do it by the data table or if you make it equal to E4. Either one of those is fine with me, but it's $960 a year depreciation expense. Now, come the end of the year, you have to calculate the new book value given this depreciation. So now the cost is always equal to O3, and I made that a constant, so I can just drag that down as I work through this. The depreciation here is equal to E10, this number right back here for this year, so it's always equal to E10. And then the book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation, or F10 minus G10, to get the book value in H10. And so that's the book value for this year. So these, we're just working exactly the formula up here in these parts of the cell. Now, the next thing that you can do is say that you go to year 14. Now the cost is equal to O3, and I have it O3 both places, and I just have this because I drug all these down, so they'll always be the same reference cell. Now the accumulated depreciation is going to be equal to E10, the depreciation expense, or it can be equal to G10, the accumulated depreciation. It can be either one of those. And G10 would actually be the more correct. So here I'm going to change mine to be equal to G10, you can watch me do that. And then I have that in there as equal to the accumulated depreciation. And now this I have to do as a formula because I want it to be a double check. So I want to do cost minus accumulated depreciation equals D11. And so as you look at line 11 at the beginning of the year and you look at line 10 at the end of the year, they should always equal. They should be always the same amount. Those are three permanent accounts: an asset, an accumulated depreciation, and a book value. They're up here in the balance sheet in the long-term fixed assets. And what is the amount at the end of the year continues through the amount for the next year at the beginning of the year. And then we do depreciation expense again. Now, you can see that these depreciation expenses are going to be constant every year because I'm doing the very same formula. So you can actually just you can click on any one of these and pull them down, and you'll have them all in there. And then the cost for year 2 is equal to 03, and notice I can again drag all of these down because those are constant, those don't change. So the cost, the depreciation expense, the cost, all of those are constant, so I can pull those down. Now then, the accumulated depreciation is equal to the depreciation above G10 plus depreciation expense for this year, E11, and then to get a new accumulated depreciation. In case you're not familiar with the word to accumulate, you know, they say like 11 inches of snow accumulated over the last night. They're saying that they all added together, that they all came together. So to accumulate is to pull them together. So to accumulate is to get more and more. So this is accumulated depreciation, and so it's the depreciation in year 1 plus the depreciation in year 2. Now the book value then is cost F11 minus accumulated depreciation G11 to get book value H11. Now you can come back over here. This 5100 you already have in there because you drug those down. Those are all the same amount under the straight line method. Now we're going to put in C11 ending accumulate. We're going to put in C11, the accumulated depreciation above, plus the depreciation expense, E11, and we'll get the new accumulated depreciation. And notice that then the book value is B12 minus C12 to be D12. That's how we're talking about these things now in cell formula language. And again, we've proven that these are the correct numbers. They were the same at both the end of the year and the beginning of the year. Now we have our 960 depreciation expense. We have then our cost, which is already in there. Now our accumulated depreciation becomes last year's depreciation plus this year's depreciation expense to get that accumulated depreciation. Accumulated plus current expense equals new accumulated, and then a new book value. Now I'm going to leave you to do the last year's 2 years on this one on your own because you can see these just repeat themselves one another. Now the pattern for this table, this schedule we're making up, will always repeat itself within the schedule. So once you get the first couple of years down, you can just follow that schedule for the last few years, whatever there is. So next I'm going to scroll this up and let you see units of production. So B was units of production. Units of production, we need to calculate a cost per unit. So it's equal to cost minus salvage divided by the total estimated value. So when we come to this formula in C, we're going to be looking at cost minus salvage. So we're going to be looking at 03 minus 04, and that's that same cost minus salvage number that we got in Schedule A, but now it's divided by the total number of units. In this case, the units are hours. This computer is going to run a certain number of hours, and it's going to run 10,000 hours. So here this is going to be equal to the 10,000 hours over here in O7. So O7 right over here, you click on that, and for this cell this is equal to O7. Now when we get to the calculation, then we're going to be trying to calculate a cost per hour, because we have a cost in our numerator and hours in our denominator. So it's going to be E17, this the top number, that's the numerator, divide a backslash by the hours, 10,000. So when we do that, we're going to get a cost per hour. So it's going to be 48 cents per hour. Now you might have to format your cell in order to get it to be a cost per hour. Remember that you come up to Home, you come across to Cells and Format Cells, and you click on Format Cells. You come down here for Cell Formats, and you click, and you want it to be currency. You want 2 decimal points because you want it to be change. You want a dollar sign, and you want a negative black number if it should ever be negative, and you do enter. And so I had already pre-formatted mine so you could see how it looks. Now that's going to be my cost per hour. So over here I have the cost, and again I can put that in as a constant and drag it down, because the cost is never going to change throughout the life of this asset. It's what we paid for it. And so then the accumulated depreciation, the beginning accumulated depreciation is always 0. It's always equal to this cell. So here's this one, and it's going to be equal to this cell right here, 06, and you're going to get a $0 in there. And so then the book value is B23 minus C23 to get book value. So cost minus accumulated depreciation equals book value. And so now we have to calculate the depreciation expense. So we click on this depreciation expense, and the formula for this is cost per hour times the number of hours. So we're going to make this equal to the cost per hour times the number of hours. So the cost per hour is 48 cents, and the number of hours is 2,500. So we have L8 2,500 times shift 8. Oops, undo that. Okay, down here, depreciation, it's going to be equal to, you can probably see mine up here, L8 times shift 8, L8 times F17. So F17 is this box right over here where we get this cost per hour. So it's these hours times that cost per hour to get depreciation expense. Now again, the cost then of that year is 5,100, and you can drag that down for all the years if you want to, or you can put it in every time if you want to. And then the accumulated depreciation is always going to be equal to that year, in the first year, is always going to be equal to that year's depreciation, because remember the formula is debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. So here's the debit depreciation expense, and here's the credit accumulated depreciation. And so then the book value becomes 5,100 minus 1,200, and that's $3,900. So then that's year 13 done all the way across. For year 14, you might already have the 5,100 in there because you drug it down. If you didn't, you can put it in there. Now the accumulated depreciation here is always equal to this G23, whatever accumulated depreciation at the end of last year has to be the same as here. So this is going to equal G23. And the book value is going to be the difference between cost and accumulated depreciation, to make sure that these calculations for the beginning of the year exactly equal what you had for the end of the year. That's how this table is set up. Now you have depreciation expense. Depreciation expense is the number of hours, and in 14 that was 2,400 hours, times the cost per hour, which is right over here in F17. So you're going to have L9 times F17, and you'll get amount of depreciation expense. The cost, you might have it already in there, you might have to enter it at this point in time. And then accumulated depreciation is going to be the depreciation accumulated from last year plus the depreciation expense for this year to get the newly accumulated amount. So G23 plus E24, and that'll equal your accumulated depreciation. The book value is equal to cost minus accumulated depreciation for the book value, so that's going to be F24 minus G24. Cost minus accumulated depreciation equals book value. Now for the third year, it'll be exactly the same process. This equals the cost. This equals the accumulated depreciation from last year. This is the calculated book value by subtracting those two. Do not go here and use the equal the sell sign, because then we don't have a proof. The others, you might be able to do that, but we need to subtract them in this book value column so that we know that we have the correct amounts from the end of last year at the beginning of this year. Now we need the depreciation expense, and this is year 15. So year 15's hours are 2,000 up here in L10, and the cost per hour is still in F17, so it's L10 times F17, number of hours times cost per hour to get the total depreciation for that year. And then we continue the table. So I'm going to leave you to do these last 2 years on your own. You've got a pattern of 3 years to follow. You can just put those in. Be very careful that you use the correct cells and the correct cell formulas and the correct cell references. Now the next method is double declining balance. And double declining balance is an accelerated depreciation method, and its formula is different than the other formulas. So what you have on your page is you have double declining balance equals cost minus accumulated depreciation times an acceleration factor of 2, because it's double declining balance, so 2 times the life stated as a percentage. So that's going to be the formula we're going to use. So when we look here at the first amount, cost minus accumulated depreciation, well, you can see that beginning accumulated depreciation is 0. So this formula right here is going to be equal to cost minus beginning accumulated depreciation right there, 06, and we're going to enter, and we're going to get $5,100. Cost minus beginning accumulated depreciation is equal to $5,100. Now the next one is the hardest one, and it's hard for students, and as many years as I've been teaching this, it's always hard for students. So I want to bring some details to your attention here. And most of you are a little afraid on working with percentages, and so I want you to notice this carefully. Now, when you have to state the life as a percentage, to state something as a percentage, it has to divide into 1.0, because the only way you get a percentage of something is to start out with 1.0, and the total of the percentages can only equal 1.0. I mean so when we put this formula in here to get this percentage, we put in 1 and the divide sign by the life. Now the life is in this 05 cell right over here. So it's going to be 1 divide by the cell formula 05. We want a parenthesis around those because we want to get that percentage first, which most of us would know that 5 divided into 1 is going to give us a 0.2. And then we have to multiply it by 2 because the acceleration factor is 2. It's double declining balance. So out here outside the parentheses, we do times 2. So 1 divide by the life. So 1 divide by 5, which is in cell 05, then times 2. And that gives us 40% acceleration factor per year, right here. 40%. So the life stated as a percentage. So that means you'd have to divide the life into 1.0 to get whatever percentage of 1 that number of years computes to. So 1 divide by our cell for the 5-year life times 0.2. That gives us 40%. And so then when we look at F30 times G30, the first year's depreciation is going to be 2040. And what we're doing there is we're dividing the book value, we're multiplying the book value times the percentage for depreciation. So it's always the book value times the percentage for depreciation. So that's what that's demonstrating to us right there. So when we come down to the table, you have a year for 2013. You want to put in $5,100. You can drag that down again, make it a constant and drag it down if you want to. You can enter it every year if you want to, doesn't matter. Now the accumulated depreciation is going to be equal to, and we're going to come over here and put it for this cell, 06, and enter. And so you'll see it becomes 0. Now the book value at the end of year 1 is cost minus accumulated depreciation, 5,100 minus 0 for 5,100. Now the formula here that we're going to put in is, for the first one, I made it equal to H30, which is fine. Or you can put in the formula. After the first year, you'll have to put in the formula. And you have the formula of book value times the acceleration factor. So I'm going to make mine equal to what I think you're going to need to do each year. So I'm going to go equals, and it's going to be book value, click on book value, and it's going to be times, shift 8, and it's going to be this 40% in G30. And I get the same number, but now I'm using this book value right next to me, and so I'm doing this depreciation, and I'm doing it with D35, the cell that's right next door to where I'm calculating in the spreadsheet, and then I'm using this 40% constant. Again, cost, but now the accumulated depreciation is equal to the depreciation expense. So it's equal to E35. Now the book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation, and that is F35 minus G35. So now this is the ending book value at the end of year 2013. I want to check that for the beginning of 2014, so I put in the cost. I make the accumulated depreciation equal to the depreciation expense, or the accumulated depreciation, they're both the same. And then I subtract them from each other, and the first 3 columns of 2014 equal the last 3 columns of 2013. So I know that I have the correct amounts. Now, this formula is D36 the cell right beside me, times the G30, the constant 40% that I'm going to be depreciating. So book value times 40% gives me the new depreciation expense. I put in the cost, which remains constant. I put in the accumulated depreciation, which is to accumulate, I'd have to use last year's depreciation plus this year's depreciation expense, which in our cell jargon is G35 plus E36 to get the new accumulated depreciation. The book value is computed then by subtracting cost and ending accumulated depreciation to get a new book value. So F36 minus G36 to get the new book value. Now this method is not quite so easy because you're always using the book value. You're never worrying about that cost and salvage. Now actually in this method this depreciation method, the slope of the line becomes asymptotic to time, and you would never get a balance to end because you just keep taking a percentage of a percentage. So as we continue to work through these years, we want to notice that we have to work with these percentages. So we have cost minus accumulated depreciation to get book value. And now the depreciation expense for that year is book value, the 1836 in D37, times the G30, the 40% constant of depreciation for every year. And then that's the depreciation expense. This would be debit depreciation, credit accumulated depreciation, debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. And then we have $5,000, $5,100 in cost, the new accumulated depreciation, last year's depreciation, accumulated depreciation plus this year's depreciation expense, or G36 plus E37 to get ending accumulated depreciation, and then we get a new book value. And the new book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation. Now for 2016, we again put in the cost, the accumulated depreciation, and determine the book value with a subtraction function. I'll always be looking in these book values for subtraction functions. Do not put equal to a cell. This would not be a proof if it's just equal to something else. You have to do the math here in order to make this a proof. So this beginning proof of that ending value has to have a subtraction in here. Now, here we want the book value, D38 or $1,102 times 40%, and we get $441. So in our jargon, it's a D38 times a G30. And then we have the cost. The accumulated depreciation is last year's accumulated plus this year's new depreciation expense. And then we get a book value. Now you notice the book value is going down very fast because we're taking a percentage of these very high values. And so the depreciation value is coming down quickly. Now in 2017, we put in the historic cost, we put in the accumulated depreciation, we subtract the two from each other and find the book value. That equals our ending book value for last year. We now determine depreciation expense by multiplying book value times our 40% constant. So in our terms, that's a D39, the book value right next to me in the D column, right next to where I'm working, times the constant G30, that's where the 40%, the cell the 40%'s in, and I get 264. Now, I have the 5,100 for the historic cost. I have the new accumulated depreciation, and which is the old accumulated depreciation plus the new depreciation expense, and I get a book value of $397. It's $97 short. I need that to be $300. I need that to be the salvage value, and it's $97 short. Now I have this $97 sitting over here in red so you can see it, and so it's pretty bright. And then I realize that this depreciation expense has to go up. It's got to be more. In fact, it's got to be this depreciation expense plus that $97. So when I look down here, I can force what that has to be, or I can come back up here to the cell I was in and put that first computation in parentheses and add $97 to it and force this number, this final book value to $300. And when you hand yours in to me, this should be $300. This should not be $397. I just did not want to. I wanted you to see it. So if I come in here and I put parentheses around this formula, and then I say add, and I put in $97, or I can do and subtract minus, because I have a minus $97 over here, so two subtractions will add together. And it's telling me it doesn't like doing that. I kind of knew it wasn't going to. So so I will have to make this $361, and then I'm trying all kinds of ways to make this work, and it isn't working very well. So since I know it's supposed to be 361, I can put that in there. But what I want is this number to come out to 300. So here I got the 361 by saying E39, which is this, minus. So I'm going to eliminate that formula. I'm going to take this and pull it up. And the reason it doesn't like this is it hasn't calculated this number yet. So for you right now, I'm going to give you the permission to put in 361 right there and make that all zero, make no difference. And then if you want to, I didn't work out the formula, and I still have a whole nother one of these to do, but you can see how that needs to go to 300. Now, the third method that I'm showing you here is the Marx method, and the Marx method is comes from the Internal Revenue Code. The Internal Revenue Code sets up how companies can depreciate quickly, how they can do an accumulated depreciation, how they can do an accelerated depreciation, excuse me. So that's what we're looking at here. So this is on page 429 in the textbook, and what I have done is I went to page 429. I put in all the years. I'm going to pull that up just a little bit so that I know it's probably over my head. So here we have the Marx percentage. There's the year. There's the percentage out of the textbook. You need to put this in, remember, as 0.20, because a percentage, the decimal point has to come in front. So you can't put 2.0. You've got to put 0.20, 0.32, 0.192 to get these percentages. And then you also have to format this. So you're going to format all of these for percentages. So we're going to go to Home, to Format Cells, to Percentages, and to 2 decimal points, and we're going to say OK. And then in here I'm going to put 0.20, enter, and it comes out that way. And here I'm going to put 0.32, and it comes out that way, because a percentage is always point something, because it's a part of 1.0. It's some portion of 1.0. So you always have to put these in 0.20, 0.32, whatever percentage they are. Percentages are always written point and then the number. So when we get down here, so I put all of these in from the table on page 429, and then it says to me it's the cost. So in here I just said make this equal to 03 because it's the cost, and then it's times this marks table percentage, whatever it is. So you have down here the information in the top, you have the years down the side. You can put this in as 0.03 every year if you want, as equal to 03 every year if you want to, or you can make that a constant and drag it down, whatever you would like. The accumulated depreciation at the beginning is always equal to, and this beginning accumulated depreciation, so we have that one in there. The book value was 5,100, and now this is cost, which is B46. So the depreciation is going to be it's going to be equal to B46. Actually, I know what I did. Sorry. So it's going to be equal to B46 or 03, whichever you'd like it to be, times this table. So times this percentage right here. So it's going to be times that. So what we're actually looking for in this marks here at depreciation is going to be equal to historic cost, or you can get the historic cost from here, whichever place you want to get it. And then it's going to be times, so it's going to be shift 8, and it's going to be times this percentage for whatever the percentage is for year 13. Now that's how I get that number. Then we do, so that's the depreciation expense for year 13 under marks. They give an explanation about how they do half in the year of acquisition and half in the year of disposal when companies are using the marks depreciation methods. That's how it would be if you're using this depreciation method on your tax return. Then the cost is equal to the 03 that we had before. Now the accumulated depreciation has to be equal to this E46, this amount we just depreciated, and we get a new book value. And so the book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation for the book value. Now I double check that's the ending value in 13. I double check that by putting in the cost, putting in the accumulated depreciation of this depreciation expense or that accumulated depreciation, and I do the math to see the value, and then get the book value. Now the depreciation is always the cost, which you can get either at 03 or at D41, times, and now it's going to be times the second entry in the data table, which is L15. So we would be seeing a formula here that said 03 times L15, and that's going to be the depreciation expense. And then cost again, the accumulated depreciation is last year's depreciation, accumulated depreciation plus this year's depreciation expense to get a new accumulated depreciation, accumulated because they're adding together. And so then the book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation to get the book value. Now we get the cost minus the accumulated depreciation to equal, then we get the book value by subtracting cost and accumulated depreciation, and now it's cost minus the third year in marks. So it's going to be the 2015 and 16 and 17 and 18. Now remember, since you take half in the year of acquisition, you're going to have to do half of what's left in the year of disposal. So we're going to have to push this into 18 because the marks does half one year and half the other year, so you have an extra year there. So you can begin to see that we just continue to work this through. Now this one is a derived table that has percentages predetermined, so they will always come out to 0. The other thing is marks allows you to take accumulated depreciation for the full cost of the asset, and so you don't have to leave the salvage value in the book value. In the last year you can go ahead and take the salvage value. So as we look at this and begin to see how it works, personally I would have probably stopped it here at 300, and it's $6 over. It's $6 under, so I would have reduced this depreciation expense by $6 so that I got 300 just like this, so that my gain or loss, my final gain or loss, becomes a function of my estimate of the salvage value. So this shows you how to do this. Now I've been talking to you for 57 minutes, so almost an hour, and I do hope that you can see this will take some time, and the other thing is you might have to get up and walk around a bit rather than to just sit and do this straight through. Be sure you save it on your file. Be sure that if you missed anything, you just grab that play slide and pull it back until you get to the part you need to hear again. And I welcome you to come also to the lab Monday at 12 o'clock noon in room 118, and I think this week I should have a lab for the online class on Wednesday at I'm thinking it's 1 o'clock. I'm thinking it's 1 to 2, but I'll check that time for you. Any way you want to do this it's really up to you to determine what would work best for you. So thanks for working through this Excel. You should be getting awfully good at building a data table and using cell formulas and cell references and learning not to type in amounts, but to have those amounts predetermined and set up for you, and then pull them all constantly from the data table. Thank you. Been nice working with you. Have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.